Oh, well, we were outclassed. And our inability to be able to pressure anywhere near like Collingwood do. And then our inability to be able to maintain possession under their type of pressure. And what happens is when you haven't got some of your better players out there, then players can be really exposed to the tempo of the game. And so collectively we have to address it, and so do we individually as well.
What mindset did you go into the game if Collingwood bring back all these guns and 7 of your players are out injured? What's the mindset amongst the playing group coming into this game?
The mindset was to challenge them and to see if we could sustain and be in the game for a long period of time. That was the mindset. And we challenge players to play on specific players, even though they're heavy rotating side, and they use that as a way to release each other. And it's what our players learn from playing on that type of side. That's the most important thing. And what I will say is I thought our supporters, the way they barracked, even though the game was beyond doubt, I thought that the way that they barracked throughout the course of the game was fantastic, and it's a credit to the way they supported our last game, even though it wasn't going our way.
Were you happy with the effort and intent, particularly that?
Yeah, well, if you have a look at contested ball and hard ball, which is a part of it, our blokes were there. So it was our figures were 140 contested situations each, and I think we had 8 or 9 more hardball gets than them. So the effort in that way, and that was a focus for us as well. That was an aspect of our game that we can say, okay, well, we beat them in that area, but the reality is, on the outside, we weren't anywhere near good enough.
Just on the injury front, do you have any updates?
Well, Fawkes has gone to hospital. Cheekbone, maybe, at this stage. Ibbetson's shoulder. And they'll be both unlikely, and they won't be playing next week. No.
Sam Clark as well, we've seen to be a bit sore towards the
Cramp. It's cramp. I think, the interesting part is when you lose players, you normally find that if your players then have to play the remainder of the game with only 2 on the bench, that a lot of players cramp. And Zach was one of those.
Mark, you must have been, I know, pretty upset looking at someone like Fawkes got a knee like that. It was a horrific looking sort of incident.
Yeah, but I said to the guys after the game, I said, they're the sort of players that you want to play with, because they're prepared to put it on the line. He's only his third game, Fawkes, and to do that, going back with the flight of the ball, means that you can rely on those sort of guys. Yeah.
So has he been cleared of any major serious damage like facial fractures?
I couldn't tell you at this stage yet. We'll find out, I guess, in another hour or a couple of hours. So. But I know they were pretty concerned at the time.
Mark, you said both are unlikely for next week. Who's that leave you to pick a side?
Well, I think Grover, possibly, and Silvani might be right. And then we've got Bukovac, who we kept over today. And we've got to make a decision whether we play him because he didn't play last week. And there's a couple of other players, Bollinghagen and Horton, who will need a game. They'll need to play tomorrow.
Did you see Nick Lowe's hit on Thomas?
Yeah, I did.
What did you make?
It was awkward.
Has he been officially reported before?
I think so.
Aside from the hit, though, Lower really, you challenge your players to prove themselves against the best, and Lower had an equal game by 36 touches, 18 clearances. It was a performance that really shows he wants to continue being.
No, he was brave, yeah. He was brave, and, at the end of the year, he'll need an operation.
What's he struggling with?
Shoulder.
Sandy as well, only the third game back, 24 touches, 37 hit-outs, and he seemed to take on the mantle of captaincy.
He did, and, I thought he was, he's whacking that ball as hard as anyone, trying to make sure that we, at the very least, him being a captain, that we were going to win that last quarter or outscore Collingwood. We achieved that, but they're not the results that you really want to pin your hopes on going forward.
Jack Anthony's work.
I thought he's good. Yeah. I thought he outbodied a lot down there. A little bit unfamiliar to him, and I thought we saw a different angle to him. There's a lot of pressure put on him externally throughout the course of the week, and I thought he acquitted himself really well. Yeah.
Looking ahead into the future, do you see that as a more permanent role for him?
Possibly, but I think the easy option for coaches is to have forwards and then turn them into defenders. And then all of a sudden you finish up with a lack of key forwards. So the hardest part of the game is to play as a forward, not as a back.
It's a year that hasn't gone right for him, but do you think that this could be a fresh start leading into next year?
Yeah. As I said, I don't discount the fact that he mightn't stay there, as a defender. And, McFarlane and Grover are getting older, so at some stage the wheel's going to turn down there, so he might be one of those guys.
Mike, what do you take most heart from this type of performance?
Just the fact that our players, particularly our younger players, are playing on Pendlebury, are playing on Didak, playing on Thomas. All these guys that they rotate through there. And it's what they learned from that. Zach and Jolly at times, and it goes on in the way that they, if the forwards play. Like, Hinkley and Kepler and Crowley and all those blokes down there, it's the way that they try to combat a defence that zone and press really well, So it's a lot of things in it. But reality is that you don't want to be getting beat by 80 points too many times.
Did you just play the premiership side for this year? Do you think they'll go all the way?
No, I think look, they're a very good side. I mean, look, they've still got 4 players that they didn't play. 4 or 5 players that didn't play against us, and Heath Shaw and Ball and Tarrant and all these sort of guys. I think there's 4 or 5 genuine contenders this year. Yeah.
How do you get the players up for next week? It's the last game of the year. You've got all these injuries. Some may think there's not much to play for. But what can you say to the playing group this week?
Well, the fact is that it's a long period of time. Depending on the way you finish. We haven't won a game for 6 weeks now. So we need to be really competitive against the Bulldogs, and it's going to be an emotional game on their behalf, probably. And we need to see if we can win in Melbourne. So there's a lot of things, and then there's obviously opportunity for guys that probably wouldn't be expecting they'd be getting a chance to play in this game next week. And that's all we can look at this stage.
You mentioned Silvani and Grover, you made that with the potential of the worst 3 guys ever today. You're still worried about being able to deal with your side next week?
We'll get by.
You need to hold any guys out of the hole tomorrow?
Most of the guys would need a hit out, and I think we'd be, if those guys weren't to play this week, and then ask them to play at that level with not too much under their belt, I'm not sure what the result would be if we didn't let them play. So we might take a risk.
Sorry, one more, Mark. There's been a bit of talk about the way you manage some players coming back from injury, but looking forward, do you do anything different in this pre-season or in the next pre-season?
In this game, the decisions you make is when a player gets injured and they're out for a sustained period of time. Normally you go through recovery, which is extensive, and rehabilitation, which is an enormous amount is put in behind the scenes. And they get to a state of when they can start to train, and then once they get through a week or 2 of training, then you make a decision. Are they all clear to go? Yes. Then you make a decision as to whether they play AFL or waffle, depending on the player. That's the process. We have not played once any player before we should have played, if that's the answer to the question.